everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and welcome back to my channel. I write young adult fiction across a variety of genres, and if you think that might interest you, then think about subscribing below. So last month I talked about why I liked drafting, and this month we're going to be talking about why I dislike editing. There are numerous reasons, not all of them included in this video, but I just thought I'd break it down into a few points. So number one, I'm not a planner. I know that for a lot of people editing is a fun part of the process, but I also know there are other writers like me who just don't like the editing process. Like I talked about last month, which I will link up in the cards, I much prefer to be drafting, to be exploring the world as I write it and moving on from that. I am very much more of a pantser than I am a planner, and I think because of that it makes the editing process harder for me. That said, I do outline while going into revisions simply because I know that otherwise I would forget the key points that need to be changed. It's something that I've heard said that people who pants find the editing process difficult, and I have to say that that's completely true for me. I'm all about discovery writing, and while there is some place for it in editing, I just don't find it as easy and fluid as I do drafting. I have tried to plan before and it's just blown up in my face. So I know that I can't change things for me, so this is a big point for me and my dislike of editing. Number two, I hate having to nitpick. While it's a necessary part of the publishing process, I do find that I struggle when it comes to nitpicking each sentence, each scene, and all the rest of it. This is usually in the line edits part of the editing process, and I find that once I do get to that stage, in the professional edit that it's fine, but when it comes to large picture edits, I really do struggle with the detail that you have to hammer down. I also find myself getting a little overwhelmed when it comes to editing because those big picture stuff is usually involving a massive rewrite, and that just scares me. I'll be honest about it. I'll touch on this a little bit more in another point, but it's the idea of having no clue how to make it work for me without also sapping down my creative energy. I will be clear here, I probably should have said this near the start of the video, this all applies to all of the self-editing process and somewhat to the professional edit, but it's nothing to do with the people I work with and just myself. When it comes to the story itself, I find it hard to focus on the tiny details, and while beaters and such will pick up on said tiny details, I find it hard to be distanced from the work as I need to be. Again, this is a me issue and not something else. I have found that no matter how long I leave between the drafting and the editing revision process, I just don't always have as critical an eye as I need when it comes to the nitpicking details. But then that's why so many authors use beta readers, so maybe it's not just me. Number three, the story loses some magic. This is a big one for me because essentially I am living, breathing the story over and over, and while that helps me get back some of that objectivity that I mentioned before, it also makes the story lose some of its magic. At the end of the day, you read anything a few times in quick succession and it will lose its pull. You start to miss things, glaze over 3 other things, and while I have found that on draft 7 I picked something up that I missed on draft 2 or 3, it's still not something where I find myself enjoying the story as much as I used to. This is a part of the publishing and editing process for everyone, I think. You get to the point where rereading just becomes a part of it, and there are parts of your stories that will stick with you, and there are other parts that where you will never want to read it again. I don't think that's just me, but if it is, let me know in the comments down below. And number 4, it's not fun for me. I think you've worked this bit out already. Editing has never been fun for me. My anxiety reaches its peak and it just keeps on climbing as I go over and over through the drafts. It's not something I can skip or even something I can pay someone else to do. I have to do revisions and self-edits myself because that's literally part of being an author. But I do find on days when I'm doing revisions and such, I'm a little bit more about the work. I am someone who very much enjoys my work. I love being an indie author and getting to write stories for a living and all of that. And usually I'm pretty excited about starting my work for the day. But when it comes to revisions and the self-editing process, I do not want to do it. I force myself to, but I generally don't have as much fun doing it as I do in drafting. And I know that I'm not alone there. And number 5, I have no process that works. This is a big one. When it comes to drafting, I know how I work. When it comes to revision, every book is different. There are some books where the process has been relatively simple and rewrites here and there, but the bones of the draft are pretty solid. There have been others where there are no bones and I've got to rebuild from scratch. There is no telling which is going to be which, and sometimes I felt pretty good drafting and come back to find that no, this was not good. Others I've been nervous about starting revisions and surprising myself. It's up and down and there seems to be no pattern to it. Because of that, I don't have a tried and true method that works for me, which just adds to the anxiety I mentioned and all of that. I try to find a way to do things like the outline to follow while revising, but it doesn't always work. Now, if you've been here a while, then you know that I really do like to be organised and to know when I need to be doing what and how I should approach it. And editing doesn't work like that for me. It never has. Maybe one day it will, but until then, I'm just going to have to keep trying to find out. So there we go, those are my 5 points of why I dislike the editing process. They all boil down to a simple thing, is the fact that it's the last point. I have no set process for it, and because of that, it just fuels up the stuff that I don't like about it. So what do you like about editing? What do you dislike about editing? Let me know in the comments down below. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment, like or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to pick up a copy of Lights Off or Young Adult Dystopian, the third in the Lights Out trilogy, all the links for which are listed below. Thanks for watching and remember to keep writing. Bye.